spooky season has begun at the Retro Video Store.
Welcome, everyone, to the Retro Video Store podcast. My name is definitely sorry. I'm all discombobulated now. Hold on. Welcome, everyone, to the Retro Video Store podcast. I'm your host, Eric.
Hi, Eric.
And that's my co-host, Neil.
I'm Neil. And who was going to make time out of fighting fires, but for some reason conveniently forgot his computer for this turd of a movie.
David did not bring his computer home, so he can't get on the podcast tonight. So I wonder if that was on purpose. But he said fire season is winding down, so he should be back with us starting next week for a consistent time. We'll see. We shall see.
Fire season may be winding down, but David always has a burning sensation.
Yes. He needs to go get that checked.
Okay, Eric. What piece of shit did we watch this week?
So we decided to do a little tour of Italy, like a never-ending pasta bowl at the Olive Garden. And we are watching the second of our Italian horror movie duo. We're watching The Beyond from 1981, a.k.a. Seven Doors of Death, directed by the notorious Lucio Fulci. This is, without a doubt, a crappy movie.
Oh, without a doubt.
But it is so much fun. This is just pure Italian irredeemable sleaze. It's just a fun movie that just makes no sense.
This goes back to what made watching movies so fun is when we would hang out and watch and talk shit, which was what we did over text while I was watching this turd. And that made it redeemable.
And I did the same thing when I was watching. I was like, man, too bad you're not here to watch this. Well, we had talked about maybe someday doing like a watch session on Amazon Prime. Just pick a crappy movie and send out an invite for people to come to watch the movie with us and listen to us talk shit about it or type shit about it, depending on the capability of the movie. So that might be something we might do later on, just as a bonus.
So. Maybe if all four of our fans, rvspodcast222@gmail.com, if all four of you want to do that, or maybe even pick the movie, let's see if we can't fucking make this work. Maybe one of you guys has done this or knows how to make this work.
Well, this month is odd because there's 2 times this month where somebody has downloaded all 200 episodes at once. It happened in the middle earlier this month, and it happened again just today. And I'm wondering if somebody's like violating the Geneva Convention by torturing people.
It may be the person downloaded them, listened to a few, and is like, "Oh, it can't be that. It can't be like that." And then downloaded it again to make sure that they got the right one. And then they're like, "Jesus Christ, I'm never going to do this again."
Yeah. So, but still, it's nice. Thank you, new listener out there who downloaded every episode.
I just think of your wife. Maybe they're just trying to learn English.
Yes, maybe. Somebody is like in a spy program or something like that. They must learn to speak terrible English.
I must learn to say the word shit the way the New Mexicans do.
Shit. Yes. Bunch of shit. Well, before we talk about spiders that chirp like birds and people who don't know how to load guns and basements in New Orleans, let's talk about
Lucio's Fulci hatred of seeing someone with 2 eyeballs.
Exactly. Before we do that, let's do what we always do. Neil, what did you watch this week?
So we sat down as a family and watched a little bit of Harry Potter. Just as a little throwback. We watched some Harry Potter. We watched the one with the big ass snake, whichever one that was. Chamber of Secrets. We watched that. We watched the first one. And then we decided, you know what, let's go to the movies. So then we watched Never Let Go with Halle Berry and 2 young black actors. I want to mention them because those 2 kids were so freaking good. And of course, My internet is taking a crap while we do this. All right. Never Let Go. IMDb. And okay. So Anthony B. Jenkins. All right. That kid, amazing. And then Percy Daggs the fourth, also amazing. So we had tuned in because my wife and I had one long Thanksgiving where we didn't really have much money. Things were getting a little bit tight, and we sat and we binged watched the entire Avatar: The Last Airbender, the cartoon.
Mm-hmm.
So we're like, you know what? That's become like a thing for us. Like, we don't know what to watch. We'll throw it on and just got good memories. So they did a live action version. We tuned in to watch that. It's fun, but the kid actors are garbage. So we walked out of this movie going like, God, those two kids could act. That's awesome. Finally, two kids that can act.
What was that movie about? I haven't even heard of it.
Okay, so Never Let Go. Halle Berry is living out in the woods with her two sons. And she, as far as she's telling them, the world has been consumed by the evil, right? So the house has been blessed. And if you go out to forage in the woods with ropes tied around you, linking you to the house, you'll be safe from the evil.
Mm-hmm.
And
was there really the evil? Can you spoil it for me?
I will spoil it for you. Yes and no.
Mm.
Yes and no. There was something supernatural going on, but also she was crazy. Mm-hmm. But then you're thinking, all right, so it was a supernatural kind of thing. And then you get that her one of her kids might actually be a little bit wackadoodle too. So then it leaves you wondering like, so is the kid wackadoo and he got his mental illness from mom, or is there actually an evil that these two were a little bit more sensitive to because some shit happened? I will diss it because the jump scares were really predictable. It's just hard to get a good jump scare in these days. Mm-hmm. But it was very interesting just because of the tension. It also was apparent, they're out there foraging for whatever they can find to eat. And, at one point they're like eating bark. They're like scraping off parts of trees to eat that. And you can see the kids just don't look healthy. And Halle Berry does crazy really good too. So I enjoyed it. I wouldn't watch it again. It was very interesting to watch. But it wasn't bad. I like the whole time. I'm like, oh, is it this? Is it this? I'm not sure which it is. And at the end, I'm like, well, I'm really not too sure. It's kind of
wondering if they're 10 Cloverfield laning it and it's actually everything bad actually did happen. Or
no.
They're doing the village where everything's normal outside the village and they were just fucking with everybody.
Oh no, they're taking these kids to the hospital. They get discovered. They're airlifting them out, and there's a line that said that you think you hear in the movie, and the kid repeats it again. And then the evil kind of looks like a woman that's also a snake. And then the kid sort of took a selfie with the house on fire. But then you can see the snake hand kind of on his shoulder. And then you're like, okay, well, is that actually that? Or is the kid nuts? It was interesting.
A little bit of a vague. Open to interpretation.
A little vague, a little open to interpretation. I like that they didn't do the whole thing. It wasn't the M. Night Shyamalan, we're going to take you up to point, and then we're going to drop the big reveal right there, and then that's what it is. Mm-hmm. This was like, no, it could be either one of these. We're not going to tell you. You're just going to have to walk out of there and decide which one it is. Mm-hmm. I liked it. Right. So the making of, you watched featurettes. Let's hear it.
Well, I was going to say, have you heard about the movie called The Substance?
Yes, I had heard about The Substance. And then you mentioned it again. But that's about as far as it is. I've never read something about it.
I was reading reviews for today, and they're saying it is like a Cronenbergian hellfest for the last 45 minutes. And it's just, people are walking out, people are getting sick to their stomach, people are screaming and freaking out. It's supposed to be really, really, really like the pinnacle of body horror. I watched Mark Kermode, who's this really good British film critic, and he was just lauding it, saying it was just amazing. And it's got a really good Rotten Tomatoes score from the critics, but it's got a divisive audience score, which means that a lot of people maybe didn't like it, while other people was like, "This is awesome." Other people are like, "What the fuck was that?" So it makes you kind of wonder how it's going to be. But it's supposed to be really, gross and explicit and insane. So now I want to see it.
As you're talking about that, I'm now reading the synopsis of it.
Yeah, like Demi Moore plays like an aging star, and she gets fired from her job, and then she finds like this substance, like a drug that will make her younger. And from what I understand, is they basically makes a duplicate of yourself that will be you for 7 days, and then you have to be yourself again for 7 days. But then things get fucked up, and it's just it looks really really bizarre. And they said the practical effects are insane and gag inducing. So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of read the end of the film, and it sounds like it might be. See, now I'm curious.
Yeah. Now I'm interested in seeing it. But as far as what I watched a lot of stuff this week because I was sick one day. I was immobile because of an injured foot. We were talking about all our maladies earlier before we started recording, but I wound up watching the full original miniseries of Salem's Lot on Shudder.
Sweet.
And it is so freaking good. It is amazing. And it really captures the spirit of the book so much because it's one of my favorite Stephen King books. And of course, the big change is they made Mr. Barlow more of a Nosferatu looking monster, but I think it really, really works. And in fact, I prefer the monstrous Mr. Barlow to the suave kind of, sophisticated Dracula-esque Mr. Barlow of the novel. I like the Max Schreck Nosferatu blue with the yellow eyes and fangs Mr. Barlow because those were iconic images of a TV movie that pretty much scared a generation of kids.
Yeah, there are a few scenes in that still like just stick in my mind.
Yeah, like when the two boys die, the little brother's at the door knocking on the window, and then he turns his brother, and then his brother goes to the younger boys, Mark, I think is his name, his window, and he's not, let me in, and he puts the cross out, and I like the fact they shot it in reverse, so the fog and stuff looks all uncanny and weird, and it's just really really well done, and they added a lot of the Stephen King touches, just kind of like the weird drama, small life drama that was going on. I watched the trailer for the new one that's coming out in October on Max, and I'm interested in watching it, but it's hard to top this one because it was just so good. And there was one that was with Rob Lowe that came out maybe 10 years ago that I never saw. Rutger Hauer was Mr. Barlow.
Really?
Yeah. It was on TNT. It was a TNT movie miniseries, but yeah, that was really, really good. I wound up watching Full Metal Jacket for some reason. Like I was went and laid downstairs in the basement and was, watching TV, and then Full Metal Jacket started, and then I just watched it, and it's a good movie. That is a movie that goes by so fast. It's like a 2-hour movie, but it is so just moves. It just moves so fast because there's really no long scenes. It just kind of goes from like little vignette to little vignette to the next thing, and it's a really good movie. England does not a good substitute for Vietnam though, because you could tell they shot it in England and they just put palm trees and stuff up in certain areas, but it's still a classic. It's a good movie. Yeah, and I've been watching a lot of lists. There's a website or a YouTube channel called the Cobweb Channel, and it is they have a bunch of lists about horror movies and stuff. So I kind of go down the rabbit hole of those. But I did watch a lot about the director of the movie we're talking about today, Lucio Fulci, and he directed a lot of movies. And let's get talking about The Beyond. Do you want to hit us with the Internet Movie Database tagline?
A young woman inherits an old hotel in Louisiana where, following a series of supernatural accidents, she learns that the building was built over one of the entrances to hell.
Metal.
I mean, yeah, I did start to believe it after a while because I felt like I was being tortured watching the movie. So that did seem like something that would never end and was causing me a great deal of torment.
Did Sammy manage to catch any of this movie?
Sammy cursed your name so much. You tell your friend to start picking some better fucking movies.
Sometimes she doesn't even call me Eric anymore. She just calls me your friend.
No, she doesn't call you Eric. Your friend. What the fuck? And then she has a certain type of movie she likes. I mean, her job deals with a lot of human despair. With what she does, she deals with a lot of that. So when she watches movies, she wants like hope and cute and uplifting, and that's the kind of thing we watch, because her job really can be fucking horrible at times. Mm-hmm. And I get that there's a lot of stress that comes along with it, but yeah, stuff like this does not go over very well.
Yes. So this movie, and I forgot to take a picture. I have a collector's edition tin DVD with lobby cards and all the extras that came out from Anchor Bay. Probably this is before Blu-ray, so this is like a classic DVD. So I've been a fan of this movie for a while, but my original introduction to Lucio Fulci was the movie Zombie. And if you were a young kid and you roamed the video store shelves, the VHS box for Zombie was very memorable because it had this like sort of skeletal looking zombie with the eyes eaten out and like maggots coming out of it, and it says, "We are going to eat you." And that always scared the shit out of me as a kid. And just look at the Zombie VHS.
Oh, I know the exact one you're talking about, but he definitely has a look to the special effects that he likes.
Yeah,
especially his zombies, or his whatever the hell they were supposed to be in this movie too. They all have a very definite look to them.
Yeah, and very low. These movies are very low budget.
What?
This one was only like made for like $400,000, so it was very, very low budget movie. But
they couldn't even afford a building with elevators. They do a fake little button that lights up, and there's two guys back there. Okay, I open it this time, and you pull it this time, and two same time. Are you ready? Okay, she's open now. She's inside. Okay, you close, I close, the same time. Okay, doors are closed. Boom, now we elevator.
So, the thing I remember the most about Zombie is that it is supposedly a sequel to Dawn of the Dead. So Dawn of the Dead was known as Zombie in Italy, and it was so Zombie. What we know as Zombie was released as Zombie 2 in Italy, so it was an unofficial sequel to Dawn of the Dead. But Zombie 2, the Lucio Fulci version, is dealing with voodoo zombies, or more like zombies in a tropical island that rise up and kill people. The most famous part of Zombie is that a zombie fights a shark. There's a shark underwater, and the zombie bites the shark. And it is just cheesy as hell, cheesy as it sounds, but it delivers on the promise that you'll see a zombie take on a shark. So,
sweet.
Lucio Fulci has a very unusual, varied career. He has directed tons of different types of movies. He's done comedies, he's done westerns, he's done just everything. He's more of like a kind of a journeyman director, but he started hitting his stride.
Why make one movie well when you can make a bunch of movies? When you can make shitty?
5 movies in 2 years. So he started with a movie called A Lizard in a Woman's Skin, and that was a giallo movie. Then he did another one called Don't Torture a Duckling, which is controversial because it criticized the Catholic Church a lot, these murders in a small town, and he kind of made a name for himself. But then he started his most fertile period with a movie called Sette Note e Nero, which is 7 Notes of Black, also known as The Psychic, which combines like a lady who's a psychic who sees these murders. Then he did Zombie 2 in 1979. Then he really hit a stride doing City of the Living Dead, which is a movie that I rented from Bronco Video in Kirtland, New Mexico. but it was known under a different title. It was called The Gates of Hell in America. And this movie was just batshit insane. There's a scene, and we'll have to do this movie eventually, maybe next spooky season when we do our Italian tour.
I'm going to announce my retirement from the Retro Video Store podcast.
But in a short period of time, he did City of the Living Dead, The Black Cat, The Beyond, The House by the Cemetery, and then The New York Ripper, which I've talked about quite a bit on this podcast, being one of the sleaziest slasher movies I've ever seen in my entire life. Came out in 1982, and it is the killer talks like Donald Duck. He calls and taunts the police, and he sounds like, you know, it's just
you just sell it. You have such a way of just making me want to watch it. Like
it is amazing.
I want to watch a guy kill a guy that sounds like Donald Duck.
Yes, it is an amazing movie. You can't believe how sleazy it is. It has been on Tubi before, and it is just one of the most prime examples of sleaze that you can find. New York Ripper. This is like a total grindhouse. It's still now on Tubi. Watch free on Tubi. And it is crazy. So I highly recommend that one. But back to The Beyond. This is part of the Gates of Hell trilogy, starting with City of the Living Dead, also known as The Gates of Hell, The Beyond, and a movie called House by the Cemetery. House by the Cemetery is fucking awful. It is a terrible. I watched it one night, and it's just not even fun at all. There's some fun kills, but there's a really annoying kid through the entire movie. And the bad guy demon is called Dr. Freudstein.
Dr. Freudstein. That's like something Mel Brooks would write into a movie.
Yeah, it's Dr. just Freudstein. Really bad. It's not even good in a bad way. It's just bad. So watch City of the Living Dead and The Beyond, but skip House by the Cemetery. That is my run up on this one. So you are very perceptive, or you had mentioned that it had H.P. Lovecraft overtones in it.
Yes,
and it is true.
The Book of Aben.
Yeah, that is part of the Cthulhu. I don't know how to pronounce that correctly.
Cthulhu
mythos. There was a writer named Clark Ashton Smith who came up with the Book of Aben, and he was a contemporary of H.P. Lovecraft, and he was one of the big three writers of this really important magazine that came out in like the 20s and 30s called Weird Tales, which published the Conan stories from Robert E. Howard, H.P. Lovecraft, and Clark Ashton Smith. So these are really that kind of mythos was derived at when this is inspired by it, but has none of the scariness or imaginative.
Aben the Unfathomable, Aben the Soul Eater. If I'm remembering from the stories right, he was like the most powerful like mage in Hyboria.
But that is just a cool concept that these writers, were writing in, contemporary, publishing these stories in Weird Tales, and all this kind of mythology grew out of it, and so much pop culture and so much horror was kind of, was the birthplace of all that during the Weird Tales magazine. It's kind of cool.
Can I also tell you that Aben is also like a doom metal, sludge metal band?
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. That definitely sounds like a, yeah.
Not that fantastic, but it's passable depending on your mood. You're thinking to yourself, I need some doom metal, some sludge metal. And let's say a friend says, hey, this band Ghost is really great. And you listen to Ghost and then you realize they're garbage. So then you go straight to Aben and it makes it a little better. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take Digsy all fucking night long for these movies, man.
So it is, the movie was released as Seven Doors of Death. It edited in US home video. And this is one of the movies, well, Lucio Fulci, all of his movies were part of the video nasty era in the UK, where they just had a big list of movies that were just straight up banned in the UK. They had a very heavy censorship laws in the 70s and 80s because they thought these kids were being just, horribly influenced by all these awful movies. Little did they know they were, but in a positive way. All our sensibility came from all these. We weren't corrupted. We were made into connoisseurs of awful movies.
Was that T-shirt? Was that the T-shirt I sent you? Like, we were Generation X. We were raised on hose water and neglect.
Yes. And video rental cards that our parents didn't supervise, and clerks who didn't care what they rented to us.
Just making a buck, man.
Yep, just making a buck. And a lot of this stuff is pure grindhouse. I love, and I guess this is where my affection for these movies comes from, is this: they're really there just to be awful. They just want to see some sick shit, and they don't care. They don't care about plot coherence or
acting
sets, music.
Oh God, that was pretty bad too. Yeah. Continuity, just the sheer ridiculousness of what's going on. As long as we got enough money for dudes to cack up blood for zero reason, or like gooey 800-year-old corpses that have been pinned, or however was 1920s or some shit, that thing was pinned up there and it's still gooey.
That is a feature. It's not a bug for me. That's what I want to see in these movies. I want to see just some sleazy Italian horror. And the thing that I respect about Lucio Fulci is that he's not going for pretentiousness like Dario Argento. He's not trying to like be a transgressive filmmaker that turns the genre on its head and, subverts expectations. He's just like, I want to see some tarantulas eat a guy's face off, and I want some eyeballs getting gouged out.
Oh, those fake tarantulas were beautiful. God, those were so bad. I just want to notice something here, that you did notes, like you do notes for everything we do, so that we kind of have like a layout of talking points of things we want to talk about. But you wasted a lot of space when you typed out the cast. Honestly, nobody's going to remember or give a shit about the cast. Gianpaolo Saccaroli as Arthur. It's Maria Pier Marsala as Jill.
Well, Catriona McCall is in all three of the Gates of Hell trilogy. She is in, Gates of Hell, The Beyond, and House by the Cemetery. And I also think she's in Zombie. So she was kind of the muse for Lucio Fulci. David Warbeck was a actor from New Zealand, and he is in this movie as Dr. John McCabe, the worst shot in all of the world.
The worst person to have around, honestly.
You don't want to watch Tonino Pulci? What movies Tonino was in?
Tonino Pulci sounds like a dirty word in Italian.
Or the Tonino's pizza rolls already. You want to hit us with the critical consensus? There's some doozies in this one.
Oh, yes. I did read that already. Upon the film's 1983 release in the United States as Seven Doors of Death, critic Kevin Thomas of the Los Angeles Times deemed the film visually elegant, but noted as a thriller of the occult, it's overly familiar, just another rotting flesh ghoul parade.
That sounds like a name for a metal band, Ghoul Parade.
Yes, Ghoul Parade. It was also noted that Kevin Thomas had very low standards for things that he deemed visually elegant. Bill Kelly of the Sun Sentinel similarly praised the films. They are digging deep to try to find people that liked this. Praised the film's visual elements, including the sepia prologue. What? But added, the problem is whenever someone in the film is trying to act, the camera is recording something that's really not worth seeing. Like the whole fucking movie. Ultimately classing it as a Z-grade horror movie. The Akron Beacon Journal's Bill O'Connor. I'm going to read that one more time. Let me just read this one more time, okay? The Akron Beacon Journal, Bill O'Connor criticized the plot for a lack of coherence. Writing, yes. People get killed all over the hotel. Then after they're killed, they get ugly. We never know why they get killed or why they get ugly, which leads me to suspect that maybe this is an art film. At the end of the movie, the dead walk. Then the people leave the movie theater. They just look like the dead people who walked out on the morgue. Maybe this is not an art movie. Maybe this is a documentary. I feel this guy deep in my soul watching this movie. Okay, Tim Pauline, the Monthly Film Bulletin, stated the film allows for 2 or 3 visually striking passages and granting that from Bava onwards, narrative concision has not been the strong suit for Italian horror movies. All right. That's it means concise narrative, just so you know that. The film is still completely undone by its wildly disorganized plot. The review also critiqued the dub, noting its sheer ineptitude.
Once again, these are features, not bugs to me.
So Sammy wanted to watch Aliens last night. She's like, was really in the mood to watch Aliens. So I forgot where we first found it streaming. So she put it on and the sound was just like maybe half a second behind.
Oh, that's awful.
And I was about to lose my fucking mind after watching this movie. I needed some goddamn good audio. So then we stopped and found it somewhere streaming else and were able to see most of it. I fell asleep because I was tired. Upon its 1998 release, critic Roger Ebert deemed it a film filled with bad dialogue. I'm shocked by that. And criticized it for having an incoherent plot. What the hell? In 2000, he included the film in a book of his most hated movies. You and me both, Roger.
Well, the funny thing is, Grindhouse Releasing is Sage Stallone, I think, who's passed away, and Quentin Tarantino, and a couple of other dudes have this film studio or film releasing group called Grindhouse Releasing, and they released this movie, The Beyond. There's this mafia movies. They're really awful. They're like 70s mafia films that are really low budget. I can't remember the name of them now, but they did Pieces, 7 Notes in Black, and a couple of other movies that they loved. And there's one that I'm trying to find so badly that looks so awful that I can't find it. It's called The Mighty Peking Man. Peking, and it's like this King Kong falls in love with this blonde girl, and it looks so funny, but I can never find it streaming. It's just I want to see this movie so bad. But Grindhouse Releasing is responsible for that. And I went to Grindhouse Releasing's website, and they are actually showing the original Evil Dead here in Colorado Springs with the Independent Film Society of Colorado Springs, which I send them an email saying, hey, I'm going to shout you out on our podcast because I think it's cool that you're showing Evil Dead 2. There's this place called the Ivywild School, which is an old high school, which is turned into a microbrewery, food hall, and meeting place. And they have this thing called the Gymnasium, which is the old high school gym where they show movies. So they're having like a horror movie film fest in October. They're showing the Rocky Horror Picture Show, but they're also showing the Evil Dead. So thumbs up to the Independent Film Society of Colorado Springs. I hopefully want to catch one of those showings, but I think it's cool that people are out there showing these movies and keeping them alive.
Yeah, although most of them look like the zombies.
If I won the lottery, if I won a Powerball or something like that, I would buy an old movie theater and just show the shit that I wanted to show. I know it'd be a complete loss leader, but I would. Well,
I know we've talked about this. This would be great because then you'll pay for me to move out there, and we'll sit down. We'll do Q&As and talk about the movies. Bring people in,
and we'll invite people over. It'll have like pizza place, pinball arcade, and movie theater.
Yes,
microbrewery.
Could we have some bourbon, please?
Yes.
Make some bourbon because that would
batch. Yeah.
Large batch for Neil, honestly, depending on which film we're watching. All right. Rotten Tomatoes. The film holds a 60% approval rating based on 21 critic reviews. That gives it an average of 6.5 out of 10. An AllMovie called the film a surreal and bloody horror epic and labeled it Italian horror at its nightmarish extreme. Time Out London alternatively called it a shamelessly artless horror movie whose senseless story, a girl inherits a spooky, seedy hotel which just happens to have one of the 7 doors of hell in its cellar, is merely an excuse for a poorly connected series of sadistic tableaux of torture and gore. Agreed.
Yeah,
Critic,
that's what it is. Yeah.
critic John Kenneth Muir wrote in Horror Films of 1980, Fulci's films may be dread-filled excursion into surrealism and dream imagery, but in the real world, they don't hang together. And The Beyond is Exhibit A. A similar sentiment is echoed by Bill Gibran of Pop Matters, who wrote of the film in 2007. The Beyond is an incoherent, chaotic combination of Italian terror and monster movie grave robbing that is almost saved by its bleak, atmospheric ending. It is a wretched gore fest sprinkled with a wonderfully evocative touch. It has more potential than dozens of past and present Hollywood horror films, yet find its way to squander and squelch each one and every golden, gruesome opportunity. It's a movie that gets better with multiple viewings, familiarity lessening the startling goofiness of some of the dialogue and dubbing. It is a film that is far more this. Did you fucking write this, or did this guy write this? You wrote this. You wrote this. The startling goofiness of some of the dialogue and dubbing. It is a film that is far more effective in recollection than it is as an actual viewing experience. It would probably work best as a silent movie, stripped of the illogical scripting, stupendously redundant goblin entraining soundtrack, drones, and obtuse oral cues. In the years since its release, I think you wrote that. I don't think. I want to look up to see if this dude, Bill Gibran, was actually a real person. In the years since its release, The Beyond has acquired a cult following. Time Out London conducted a poll with several authors, directors, actors, and critics who have worked within the horror genre to vote for their top horror films. As of October 1, 2019, The Beyond placed at number 64 on their top 100 list. Film critic Stephen J. Schneider ranked the film number 71 in his book of 101 horror movies you must see before you die.
Is that to speed up dying? Is that what there's?
Apparently. I added a little link for you.
Ooh.
Right after that.
Mighty Peking Man, yeah.
Right. No, that's the whole movie streaming right there, dude.
Oh, sweet. I'll have to check it out.
Yeah.
It's crazy. It's just like this one and The Mighty Peking Man and Kiss Meets the Phantom of the Park. We need to do sometime. Star Child. All right.
See, that would be a good one because all we'd have to do is lay down a couple thou once we have our movie theater, and Gene Simmons would show up if you wanted to watch that. For 100% Gene Simmons would show up with a bag full of Kiss merchandise.
If you watch this on Peacock or maybe on I'm not sure if they do it on Tubi, but they have the awesome Grindhouse releasing thing that and it's got that 70s feel.
That was the best part of the movie. that gave me drive-in vibes.
Yeah, I just love it because that kind of captures what you want from this movie. And it starts with a flashback and they film it in this weird like sepia toned like silent movie kind of look.
You had to know it was old.
Yeah, you had to know it was old somehow, and that was just shorthand for a long time ago. Is it's filmed in this weird sepia toned look,
with and a lot of really Italian looking dudes.
Yes, come on, Tonino, let's go at this guy. There's like a lynch mob, all in boats in this swamp, heading towards the hotel, and you see our warlock. What is his name? Schweik or something. What is the name of the warlock?
You're asking me for more than I gave to this movie, honestly.
Schweik, Schweick is the warlock at the beginning of the movie, and he is just doing a little painting of foreshadowing of what the Beyond looks like, and the lynch mob finds him, and you're an ungodly warlock, and this is how they sound. And this hotel is built on the 7 doors of evil. And they beat him with the chain, and his skin must be extremely loose.
He's had to take some oral steroids. It's thinned his tissues a little bit.
But one hit with the chain causes like his skin to just to slough off, and this huge like gouged out piece of skin on his face, and it's so juicy and bleeding and stuff. And they take him down to the basement and they nail him to the wall of the basement. Of course, in New Orleans there's are no basements, but in the hotel apparently has one, which is permanently flooded all the time.
Yeah, I thought they were gonna walk through a catacomb or something while they were down there.
So they nail him to the wall.
At least he did his homework before he made this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yes, he did. He did a lot of research on guns, on, on New Orleans. New Orleans is such a small place that you could just find the person driving down the street. Go, hey, there she is. There's not 300,000 people who live there.
Well, not in 18, whatever the hell it was, 19 something, 20, whatever it was.
So they beat and crucify our warlock, and they just happen to have some quicklime ready to paste him up with. And then the movie, you see our girl who may be living, who may be dead. She's written from the book of Abon, and the book catches on fire, and then you see her eyes are filled with the contact lenses of the devil, which are these kind of grayed out, yellowish kind of grayed out where your pupils are grayed out, which apparently if you see something that you cannot process, that happens to you. It is,
yes,
you are witness to evil that is so awful.
I like that we both, even though we're looking straight at each other, we still have to use our hands to describe this.
The contact lenses of the devil.
No one else is getting to enjoy what I got to see as you were describing the contact lenses of the indescribable. It's a lot of fun.
They show the Italian title of the movie it's in Italian lettering, and it says, "And you will live in terror!" ! The afterlife. Apparently that is the name of the beyond in Italy, which cracks me up. And you will live in terror! The afterlife. So the dubbing is awful. And like most of Italian movies, they have people speaking in Italian, speaking in English on the set, and then they dub everything in post. So it sounds terrible. Their voices, their lips don't match the dialogue and stuff. And so it's kind of like kung fu level dubbing. Once again, it's a feature to me. It's not a bug.
In kung fu level dubbing, it's like you're really aware that the lips are not going to move in sync.
Yeah.
This is just annoyingly slightly off all the time.
Yeah. So our heroine, she inherits a hotel.
That's what I needed for watching this movie. So
her name is Liza. She inherits this hotel, and this is like her last shot. She's done all sorts of stuff, and during when she's having the long conversation with our doctor, with a New Orleans jazz band playing at a low level, so you can hear their conversation. She said she's been a model, she's done all sorts of stuff, and this is her last shot. So she inherits this hotel, and immediately a painter who is helping out, he sees our cataract lady staring through one of the windows, and he falls off a platform.
and is still juicing out blood. God knows how much later. He's like, here it goes.
But instead of calling it a 911, I don't know if I had 911 in 1980 in New Orleans, or calling an ambulance, they call the doctor. And our doctor is like he is in the movie for the entire movie, just hangs around. But he's like, this guy needs to be taken to a hospital. Well, no shit.
The guy's cacking up blood. He fell on his back and apparently ruptured something and has an endless supply of it, which takes us to and then we go to the hospital, the weirdest morgue I've ever seen in my life, with their amazing special effects for that elevator. That elevator was badass.
Well, the weird thing about the morgue is it seems like the same three corpses are laying out, and there's no timeline. The corpse of the warlock that they wind up digging up lays in that morgue on that table for weeks. It seems like weeks, because there's a funeral we see, there's all sorts of stuff, and it just happens to be laying there for an extended period of time. There's no continuity at all in this movie.
We're gonna talk about the doctor as he leaves, giving the guy the permission to try the old brainwave machine.
We're jumping away. Jumping away ahead.
Fuck it, because that part annoyed me. And then the sign, do not entry.
Do not entry.
Yeah. Oh, you can try the old brainwave machine if I'm going to go.
So before the brainwave machine, we'll get back to room 36 is haunted. Apparently that was Schweik's room, and it keeps calling at random times, like calling room service. We need some extra towels up here.
Schweik. Was that the ungodly warlock?
He was the ungodly warlock. So Joe the plumber, and we literally is Joe the plumber because he pulls up after our painter falls down in his work van. It says Joe the plumber. He goes down into the basement to fix the leak, and it's like a fucking river in the basement. And he finds this like old stone wall, and apparently that's where they quick limed Schweik and the walled him up. This undead hand reaches through and pokes out his eyeballs, like literally pokes out his eyeballs. You see his eyeball just kind of come out of the socket. And he
For everyone at home who can't see, Eric is now demonstrating how to poke out your eyeball in a Lucio Fulci film.
There are so many eye injuries in Lucio Fulci movies.
Lucio Fulci fucking hates people with two eyes.
He does. So there's
What I'm
another
not going to tell anybody. What I'm not going to tell anybody is I bought a little bit of a piece of a company that makes it the eye patch.
Fulci's Eye Patch Emporium. So there's another lady named Martha who's apparently came with the hotel because she can't. Literally, Liza says they came with the hotel, so she can't fire him. There's also some creepy dude named Arthur who's kind of like, in Liza's room smelling her panties or something like that.
Yeah. And dressed like Italian countryside peasant in Louisiana heat. He's got his shirt buttoned all the way up, and he's wearing a jacket. He's
permanently sweaty all the time. I'm looking for some keys. Yeah,
I'm just looking for the key. I do want to get this out of the way though. Martha is a bad bitch. Martha, like, she walks in wearing an Italian nonna dress everywhere she goes, and is like, bathtubs are kind of gross. I'm gonna just roll up on my sleeve and go fishing around in here.
That part grossed me out more than the eyeballs getting pulled out. Is when she reaches in this bathtub that is like looks like it's filled with crap and pulls out this big old wad of like hair or something like that. She's didn't buy any sort of Drano or anything like that. She just
when the Joe died, he left us some mangy pubes in here while he stewed in the water.
And of course,
he was a hairy dude, though. I can't wait till we get back to the fucking morgue. I have issues with the morgue too. Come on, speed this up, Eric. 47 minutes.
They find Joe the plumber's body, and then they find the Schweik's body. So they take him to the morgue, and first of all, one of the morgue guys is like, he looks pretty good for some guy who's been dead for 6 years. I'm like, how about 56 years? 56 years.
Maybe we need to put the old brainwave machine on him, see how he's doing.
So one of the other morgue guys with the doctor says he happens to have looks like a oscilloscope or something, we're just like, this is my brainwave machine. So they put the brainwave machine on Schweik's corpse. And of course you get brainwave activity,
of course. Let's talk about how, of course, in America, as soon as the autopsy is done, they let you just walk in and dress the body for the funeral as the wife. That's just what you do. That's your right as a wife to just walk right in there and to, I'm not going to fit that shirt on him. I've seen this maybe back in the old country from my nonna. I'll just cut it down the back and then wrap it around him. And then that way nobody knows.
But still, she dresses him pretty well for being by herself, this lady. And she doesn't seem to be that upset.
And dealing with the grief of your husband. Your hairy husband who's going to leave his zombie pubes in the bathtub to fuck with Martha. So she's got to dig that shit out.
Well, the other thing that is nuts, there must have been no OSHA
from his nuts. That's what I said. Yes,
there was no OSHA inspections at the morgue because there's this giant vat of acid sitting precariously on top of the cabinet with no lid on it.
With no lid.
And Joe the plumber's wife screams, and then she's laying flat on her back, and her daughter, the ginger-haired Jill, is waiting outside. Poor Jill. And she walks in, she sees her mom get covered in this acid, and it's a mixture of acid and blood that's like flowing along the white floor of the morgue, and it looks like strawberry slushy or cherry slushy to me. Did it look like cherry slushy to you?
Okay, so at some point during my high school career, I have mixed alcoholic substances with ices, and it has come back out looking a lot like that.
Yeah, cherry
That's what
icy.
that reminded me of. Yeah.
Mm. We haven't even talked about Dickie the dog yet.
Oh, Dickie.
Emily is the blind girl who was reading the book of Avon at the beginning, and Liza finds her just in the middle of this bridge, in the middle of the road on this bridge. And without irony, she tells Liza, "I have been looking for you." You're like, really?
No, you haven't.
But there's this part where Emily is in her house, and we don't know if she's a ghost or not, because later on they're like, Emily, who's this girl? She lives in the house that's been abandoned, but we see her get haunted by the corpses that have been reanimated, and she sends Dickie, her German Shepherd, seeing eye dog, to fight the undead, and then out of nowhere, Dickie the dog bites her neck.
I seriously thought, I told you in the text, I thought Triumph the Insult comic dog decided to take out his frustrations on her.
It is, yes.
You can see the puppet. You
can see the puppet tearing at her neck.
It.
Your neck is for me to poop on.
Okay, that was far better than the damn spiders. So that the spiders, that was a stretch.
Yeah, so there's this guy who's helping out Liza research the hotel, and he goes to the library, and he is in the library, and he's on this like step ladder that is not part of like attached to the bookshelves like a library would normally have.
Him to come down. I wanted him to come down so bad when I saw that. He's coming down.
Yeah, he's way up there. Lightning strikes. He gets scared. He falls off a ladder, apparently paralyzing himself, while these slow-moving tarantulas chirp like birds and eat his face off. It is so funny, and out of nowhere, it is so stupid.
Very much so. And can we talk about the little girl's funeral? The little girl, like, dad's gone.
Yeah, Jill, the redheaded girl, she has the pigtails.
Now, mom's gone. What I enjoyed is that, okay, they're getting a Catholic funeral because Catholicism really, really huge in New Orleans. I don't know. I'm just saying that. But then when everyone says goodbye, little kiss on both cheeks, just like they do in New Orleans. Mwah, mwah. I'm so sorry. Both the mama and papa gone, and you all alone. And now, mwah, mwah.
We're just going to leave you alone in the cemetery, and you can't see it no more. So, yeah. Good luck.
You can't. Maybe you get a job, or you sweep, or you pick up some things.
So before Emily dies, she goes on this exposition rant saying that when the lynch mob went and killed Schweik, it actually activated the 7 doors of death because he was doing a ritual, and he himself was the sacrifice that opened up the 7 doors of death, the gateway to hell. So everything is going on. We get another eye gouging because Martha's upstairs, screwing around, and she sees undead Joe the plumber come out of the bathtub, and then he pokes her head against this the nail against the wall, and her eyeball comes out in a cool way.
Yeah, that was a good one too. Yeah,
and everything is going to hell. Liza's freaking out. She sees Schweik in the house, and then room 36 is calling. She's freaking out. I'm surprised the doctor didn't slap her. Then all of a sudden they're like,
the doctor does give her, and like we said before, he's got a very good like side eye, like bitch please, when he's eyeballing her like, you're crazy, but I'm still hoping to tap this, so I'm going to hang around.
So they wind up going back to the hospital, and all the corpses are alive now, wandering around, and he happens to have a gun in his dresser drawer, or his desk drawer, which most people always have a gun in your desk drawer, and he proceeds to fire off 9 shots.
9. I counted.
So did I. From a 6-shot revolver, and then proceeds to shoot a zombie in the chest 2 times, then go, hey, I'm going to shoot him in the head. It works. And he doesn't learn from that. He proceeds to keep shooting zombies in the chest 2 times, and then go, hey, about the head. So he does not learn. He's the worst zombie killer ever. And
12 shots after he reloads. He's got 12 after he reloads, because one of those that he put down the barrel was magic.
Yeah, they had this. Before that, he is shooting zombies, And when he shoots the zombies in the head, it just puts a little tiny hole in the zombies' heads and they fall down and die. Well, Jill, a redheaded ginger girl with the pigtails, she turns into a zombie. He shoots her and her whole head explodes. Like, bam! It's just like the most bloody, gory kill. And if you watch it on YouTube, you can look at the Beyond headshot. And there's, I think in other versions, maybe not this version, it's a lot slower and you just see, blah, her head just explode and there's just a big, grapefruit sized head, a hole in her head. And it was on the cover of a Fangoria magazine, I remember distinctly. And it was just a picture of Jill's head, face with a big old hole in her head from the Beyond. Look up Fangoria, the Beyond, and you'll see that on Google, I'm pretty sure.
This a girl of ginger, so she's going to have a different kind of pressure inside of there.
Very soft skull.
Real good.
Lots of pressure going on inside there. So he's trying to reload the gun. And if you watch really closely, when he gets in the elevator, he's reloading the gun and he's really reloading, putting the bullet upside down the barrel of the gun. So obviously this doctor has never seen a gun before or knows nothing about them. And Lucio didn't say, cut, that's wrong. It's hilarious. There's so many. I mean, if you go to the goofs section of the Internet Movie Database on the Beyond, it's just filled with all sorts of goofs. It's a nice little read.
Hey Pepe, we got the money to refilm of that because I think he really screwed up at the bit with the bullets. It's like we got $399,000 and a 998 down. Okay, so we just move on. We saved the 2 for espresso.
So the coolest part to me, and I always enjoyed it, is that they go to the basement of the hospital or in the morgue, and they wind up being in the basement of the hotel. And they wander around, and they are in the Beyond, which is kind of like a purgatory kind of afterlife kind of place. And it's like this kind of gray hellscape with bodies all over the place and monolithic things going on. And they realize they're trapped because they turn around and they run and they wind up being in the same position they were before. And the last shot of them is that their eyes have turned. They have also been applied the contact lenses of the devil because both Liza and the doctor's eyes are all covered. Their corneas are covered in that kind of weird yellowish, grayish looking thing. So they are now trapped in the titular Beyond, and the movie ends. So it's kind of a cool, striking image at the end of the movie. So I think, a blind nut finds a squirrel. I mean, blind nut finds a squirrel. Excuse me. A blind squirrel finds a nut. Jesus, it's late. A blind squirrel finds a nut every once in a while.
they just
mixing up my metaphors here.
They've got poor Mr. Peanut after a severe accident tapping that cane around.
So yes, mixing my metaphors here, but yes, that is the cool part to me. I always thought that was kind of striking. And I think that one reviewer did kind of hit the nail on the head, is that it is better remembered than watched, because later on when you're thinking about the movie, you're like, yeah, that part was pretty cool. That part was pretty cool. But when you're actually watching it going, what the fuck? What's going on with this movie? So it is more fondly remembered than actively watched. That is a good synopsis of the movie, but I really like it. I think it's a fun slice of Italian cheese. It just has enough set pieces and gore to keep you interested, with a bunch of goofs and weird acting and just a bunch of, it's a fun, bad movie, and maybe better watched with friends than watched by yourself, but I enjoy it. It's a good Italian horror movie.
And if anyone out there listening to us didn't realize that there was something deeply, deeply wrong with both of us, now they are 100% sure that there is something that's not quite right.
Neil, do you want to know my top 10 Italian/giallo horror movies?
Well, I kind of did, but I don't think you would have taken the time to have typed that out.
Well, I did. I put some thought into it and thought about my Italian horror movie experiences, my favorites. I've watched quite a bit. I am by no means a Italian horror movie super fan, probably more than the average horror movie, but I'm not like, one of those people who watches the Italian Cannibal Cycle and some of those other things. I'm not going to watch Make Them Die Slowly and Cannibal Holocaust and Man from Deep River and Cannibal Apocalypse. That's just too much for me. I'm not going to watch any of those those movies. So I'm more of a Italian horror and giallo fan. So coming in number 10, well, let's do honorable mentions first. The Bird with the Crystal Plumage is good. It's a fun little early giallo movie. Black Sabbath is a fun horror anthology series. You know, it's got three.
I like Ozzy, so that's a good choice.
Well, that was And then the New York Ripper, which I have talked about quite a bit. I enjoy that one because it is just
what's the killer sound like again, though? What's the sound? Okay.
Yeah. So number 10 is Zombie, a Lucio Fulci movie, which we've talked about a little bit about that one. City of the Living Dead is number 9. Lamberto Bava's Demons is number 8, which we'll probably watch next year. It is just a balls to the wall. People are trapped in a movie theater while demon like zombies go after them. It's crazy as hell. Makes no sense. A lot of fun. The one we just watched, The Beyond, is number 7. Bay of Blood is number 6, which is kind of like a proto slasher. A lot of some of the kills from Friday the 13th are directly ripped off from Bay of Blood. It's a pretty good one. Deep Red, which we did last week, is number 5. Phenomena with
Phenomena
with Jennifer Connelly, Donald Pleasance, and a razor wielding monkey.
Yep,
is number 5. We've done it. Number 4. We've done an episode on that one.
Don't you say it. Don't you say it.
What? Don't say what?
Number 3. Don't say number 3.
Black Sunday?
I've actually seen that one.
Black Sunday is the Mask of the Devil, where it's got Barbara Steele in black and white, where they hammer the Mask of the Devil on her and she haunts people. It's Mario Bava's very influential in Tim Burton's movie and aesthetic, black and white.
I guess maybe it's movies with black in the title because like Black Christmas, Black Sunday, I've seen. I don't know. There's something about them.
Yeah. Blood and Black Lace is number 2. It's one of the earlier giallo movies, but it's a lot of fun, really distinct colors. It's about a bunch of models getting killed by your typical giallo killer, black gloved, white masked kind of killer. And my number 1, and I know Neil doesn't like this movie, but I enjoy it, Suspiria. That is my number 1 Italian horror movie.
Yep. Nothing like watching grown women talk like they're 12 years old at a dance academy.
That is true. They did act like kids. But check those out if you want to get into Italian horror. A lot of them are on streamers right now, and they're a lot of fun. So my top 10 Italian horror movies and giallo films. Next week, we're going to go way, way, way more recent and talk about the new Hellraiser movie, the newest Hellraiser movie that came out in 2022 that is on Hulu. I have still not seen it yet, so it'll be like watching something for the first time.
Really? Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to watch the original. I watched this when we were going to do it originally. Mm-hmm. I made the mistake. Don't watch it during the day because it is a very dark movie. Mm-hmm. Like lighting wise, it's very dark. So it helps to have just the TV on when you're going to watch it. So no glares or anything like that. Just watch it when it's dark. That is a huge flaw of the movie, how dark it's filmed, but it is pretty good. I love the take on the Cenobites. I thought it was going to be like a really cool like kickoff for a whole new series of Hellraiser movies. I've been let down. They haven't done anything else yet. I enjoyed it. I thought this was more Clive Barker-y than any of the ones that came after the original Hellraiser.
Okay, cool. We're going to watch that one. And a little more on what's coming up is that we are going to do Hellraiser. Then we're going to go Halloween Resurrection, the one with Busta Rhymes. We've been putting it off for a long, long time, but we are...
Dave, you need to be here for that one, buddy.
Yeah. And then we're going to do Evil Dead 2, Sleepy Hollow. And since Halloween is on a Thursday, I still want to do one more scary movie. So November 2nd, we'll probably do Army of Darkness, just to kind of do a duo with the Evil Dead 2 and then do Army of Darkness. And then we'll get into the hell of Turkey Month after that.
Oh, yeah. There we go. There we have it.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, everybody. If you want to get a hold of us, rvspodcast222@gmail.com. You can get a hold of us on Instagram and on Threads and then on Facebook. And if you want to contribute to the cause, go to buymeacoffee.com and then look up the Retro Video Store. Help keep the metaphorical lights on. And we appreciate everybody who has continued to listen and people who are downloading every episode. Thank you very much. It's nice.
Yep. Don't go to Threads. I talked some shit about you on Threads. Just want you to know. About you, and particularly the movies. Yeah. Talked a little shit. It had to be done.
Or I'll check it out. All right. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah. Thank you for sticking through this absolute turd of a film, everybody. And
it's amazing.
I know your weeks will be better. You'll have a really good week because you're not going to say to yourself, hey, Eric, I feel like I'm going Christopher Walken. I hate this so much. Eric liked this film. I don't see it quite that way. I would watch a monkey fuck a flagpole before I would go back and watch this movie ever again.
All right.
And thanks
put that
thanks
quote
to,
on the quote on the movie poster.
thanks to TikTok, I could probably find that somewhere.
Have a good week, everybody.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you for listening to the Retro Video Store podcast.